Hello everyone. We have with us Ramakrishna, who has secured Indian Information Service in the 2023 UPSC CSE reserve list. But Ramakrishna is one of our very special students who has struggled really hard and achieved this in his second attempt. This was 2023 Civil Services was his second attempt, and first attempt he couldn't clear prelims, but the second attempt he cleared all three stages, and only with 6 marks he couldn't make it to the final list, but he made it into the service, into the Indian Information Service. His dream was to become a Indian Foreign Service officer. So congratulations
Thank
to
you,
you.
ma'am.
We're so happy to see you after a long wait, though, with the reserve list announcements coming a little late. But glad that you have one thing in your bag right now, one service. And Ramakrishna is pretty young and very talented, so we know that he will achieve the higher service also. His dream of becoming a foreign service officer, or the next is Indian Administrative Service. So all the best in your efforts going forward.
Thank you, ma'am.
So Ramakrishna, tell us about your family background, your parents, and you know how you have chosen civil services as a career.
So I grew up as a cosmopolitan guy. My family has been born and brought up in Hyderabad since many generations. So I've always been a person who knew different kinds of people. So that is where the root of my desire to become a foreign service agent comes from. Like, I know different cultures and different kinds of cuisines and different kinds of songs and movies. So that is where I have that knowledge from. And I've done my schooling here, and in school we have something called Model United Nations, where we become the delegates of those nations and try to represent the values and cultures of those nations. And that is where a further push to my interest in becoming foreign agent.
Yes, that is definitely the right seat.
Yes.
I was also one of those delegates,
Yes.
so I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So that is where my desire came from, and I did my graduation in Bachelor of Science in 3 subjects in Maths, in Physics, and in IT. And after my graduation, I always wanted to pursue civil services. I kept my graduation as a backup plan because IT is booming right now.
Yes.
And I've known about R.C Reddy Institute since my childhood because my grandparents used to live very close by. So they used to tell me, there's a good institute here. So as soon as my graduation finished, I joined here and I started preparing.
So this was your second attempt, right,
Yes.
Ramakrishna? So how was your journey? The first attempt, you have joined as a prelim cum main course. You have joined here at R.C Reddy IAS. And how was your journey? I mean, if you could tell us how it was, and then the second attempt.
My first attempt was in 2022. I joined in 2021, the month of February. So the preparation was not quite there yet. Like I was covering my basics and I was trying to understand what the answer, what the question, the people who said the question paper, what they want now. So my first attempt I lost in prelims because I couldn't quite grasp how to answer the questions. And so after that, for my second attempt, I joined the high impact revision course now, which started in I think February that year
At R.C Reddy.
at R.C Reddy Institute. And so there I was given a lot of good guidance by the faculties, where they told me how to evaluate options and how to hone in the knowledge in a way as to where we even get to answer the questions we don't know about. So there, and thankfully I was able to clear prelims after that. And then immediately after prelims was over, I also joined the revision classes for mains at R.C Reddy Institute, where again I was taught great answer writing tips and how to write in a concise and precise manner, and don't waste a lot of time by trying to repeat the information again and again the way we are taught in our colleges and schools.
Strategic revision
For mains, where we were given all different kinds of tips and tricks, like how to increase, like get one more mark, get half more mark. Because in mains, especially in mains, every mark counts. Because everybody is talented. The people who pass prelims, everybody is good.
Yes.
And everybody has lots of experience. So every mark counts, and that is what we were taught there. Even the aspect of managing your time properly. Because the main thing about mains is everybody will have the knowledge, not everybody will have the time to write all the answers. There are 20 questions for general studies paper and writing them.
Yes.
You will know everything. When you go back home and you check the answers you did not attempt, you will find that you will know the answer of them, but you just don't have the time. Here I learned how to write everything properly. That is what. And again, thankfully, I was able to clear mains too. And also came here for a couple of mock interviews, and I got guidance from Sangamitra ma'am and R.C Reddy sir regarding everything, A to Z for interview preparation, how to speak in a formal way, how to sit, the body language, the posture, the terms which we are supposed to use, and the terms which we have in our vocabulary but which we are not supposed to use. How to look into the eyes of the interview, and also trying to be honest. If you don't know the answer to something, just say I don't know the answer. Everything good will start.
Yes, I very well remember, at each phase of yours, and we understood as an institute with 35 plus years of the institute's history and 45 plus years of R.C. Reddy sir's experience, we understood that where students are struggling. That's why, though our classes that like the PCM courses, everything, all the faculty teaches is right on point. But how do you apply it in the exam? Where students, though it is taught in the classes, when they have to take special care about how to take care of certain aspects. That's where the revision programs were brought in, the high impact revision which helped you, and also the strategic revision for mains. And
my main gratitude is with the revision courses, man. They help me a lot because the classes at R.C Reddy are always good. The basics, what the syllabus which is being taught, but the way they hone in and to tell you how to write, because this is not like a normal exam of any institute. This is a different kind of exam. So they tell you how to write answers to it, how to face it, how to manage time. These are very important things. I mean, yes.
So I very well remember the interview part also. Ramakrishna's was the first his interview was I remember, I think it was 8th Jan.
Yes.
Right? Am I correct? Yes, it was on January 8th that his date was given. There was hardly any time, and it was his first interview. Not just civil services interview, first interview. So I still remember R.C Reddy sir one-on-one with you, and then I took one-on-one sessions, and then the part where you have started from where in that short span, how you improved for interview was like amazing. I would give you credit for that. Though we have guided. I mean, sir's guidance is very clear. I have watched my father, R.C Reddy sir, for so long, and sir very specifically guides on certain aspects that you mentioned, and I'm glad you could make it. So, how was your experience with the mock interviews and at the institute?
I would use it as baptism by fire, but it was very important lesson for me because I did not know the small details of sitting in an interview, how it is. So, sir gave me really good tips regarding my knowledge, how to go back and recollect. He told me to look into specific topics because my number one preference was foreign services. So he told me, you have to go and study English and get good knowledge about certain figures and foreign service who you admire. So all the good tips and tricks which he gave was it gave me a lot of thing to work on and put my effort, because I knew that I was not very good when I started it. But then I also didn't know where I had to put my efforts.
The problem, Ramakrishna, is many students think they can give the entire aspect of having mock interviews is to prepare you. So that is where if you falter, it's okay. That's what we try to tell our students.
I think
And you had those we always have the best panel
yes,
also at the institute. And I remember very clearly, the panel that was there that day was really good.
yes.
And
I think it was important for me to fail in that because I learned so many things from
Yes.
that, which made me really good, really well prepared. Even though I had barely 2 weeks of time, I think by the time I reached Delhi, I was in my mind I was really well prepared.
yes, it's true. That's why I said you had a phenomenal improvement. And kudos to your energy, and you see many students take the advice, but will they follow it?
Yes,
And also manage their emotions in the path. I remember very clearly when we had a one-on-one session, we worked on a lot of
yes,
how to manage your emotions as well and how to structure your answers and everything. So I'm really glad you did well. And of course, the results day was one more thing altogether.
yes. I was disappointed. Back in every aspiration, I think we know whether we get it or not. And in my mind, I had a thing that I did a good interview, and I was like, maybe I'll get it. I was like 70% sure I'll get it. And then I did not get it. I was like very disappointed. But then I was like, there is another one. I have many attempts left.
Yes, that
And
day.
I'm young too.
Yeah.
And there was also the chance of getting into reserve list because I had just lost by I think 6 marks. So I just took a couple weeks break and I centered myself again and I planned what to do.
Yes. So even on the day of results, even though you didn't make it, I know what you're telling me. So we called you that day too.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's not just those who get the ranks. We call those who lost with a, because it's not easy to face what you faced that day. But we know that you are one of those students. This exam is pretty tough and it tests your mettle in different ways, emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted in a lot of aspects. But 6 marks in a general category or OC category is you've lost with that. So we knew that you will definitely make it. I told you that day, and was very happy to receive the call and to see your name in the reserve list. So now that you have it with you, now you are young and you have many more attempts to go. So I really wish and we're here to support you for your next attempts too.
My gratitude, man. Very, very big thanks to you and to R.C Reddy sir and the faculty and the whole management of this institute.
We're very happy. It's this kind of achievements that we see, and students who work hard, and we're here to give the best. In every way, we work hard on your side. To see how we can make it the best. So it's really we feel very happy to see such success stories. And so, what would be your advice for students for prelims? And what would you tell students how to?
I think my first advice would be to join high impact course as soon as possible. Take the seat, sit in the first bench, listen to all the lecturers, everything they say is important because they have limited number of hours to teach you. So they will tell you everything, but you have to listen, attend every day, do not miss anything. The other thing is know where you are lacking. You are an aspirant of UPSC, so I think it's a baseline that you have the knowledge. Just know where you're lacking, whether you're lacking in time management, whether you're lacking in retention of memory, or whether you're just lacking, whether you have some sort of distractions. So just know where you're lacking, concentrate, hone in your skills which you already have. I think that's the biggest tip.
Yeah, we also had the tests, right? You were
Yes.
given the test during the high impact revision. Apart from the tests that we conduct during your coaching here, during high impact revision also we have tests, and I very well remember how we structured the program because post test analysis is also part of it.
Yes.
I think that's what you're mentioning about. How to
Get all the value from the course. And also one more thing I would like to say is solve a lot of mock tests. The institute obviously will do, but also use online. We have lots of free websites where they give you mock tests from everywhere. So I practiced, I don't know how, probably thousands of mock tests for prelims I used to sit the whole day, like a month before prelims. The only thing I did was mock tests. I practiced from day to night. I timed myself to see how long it was taking me, and also not to ignore CSAT. CSAT is
I'm
very
glad you
important.
mentioned it.
CSAT is very important.
Yes.
You cannot ignore CSAT. Because I've seen many of my people I know where they have got passed in the general studies paper, but they lost in CSAT. I think that's very difficult.
It's a tough loss, when
It's
you are prepared for the mains and all that you do, and you lose the prelims with just because of CSAT. It's not easy to take it. So that's why we've been telling our new batch that started for the 2025 prelims. We were very clearly telling them in the orientation to focus on both
Both are equally
GS and
important.
CSAT. Yeah. So coming to mains, how was your preparation and what do you suggest to students?
For mains, I would suggest you to follow one source. For history, know your source, see which is good, or listen to your lecturers and guides, and they will tell you one source, follow one source. Because if you try to follow everything, you will get lost because there are thousands and thousands of sources, and all of them are good. So you have to follow one, stick to it, be very thorough with it. And the other thing I would like to tell you is practice answer writing, and also to try to improve your language skills a bit. Because in mains, the main thing is they will see how you are going to write the answer. Because information everybody has. The way you present it, that will give you extra one, extra half mark. So I think language and the singularity of sources, that is the main point for mains. Also time management, that is very important. You have to write fast. That is the only thing you have to write, because they give you a thick answer booklet. I think that is around 60 pages long, and you have to fill the whole thing. There are no options except in optionals. There are options, but in general studies and essay, general studies paper has no options, and that is the main core of mains. So you have to, no matter if you know the question, if you know the answer to the question or not, you have to try to fill something which you know, which is related to the question. So the time management is another.
Yeah, with limited time and space given in the exam. And what was the aspect of note making? Did you make your own notes, and what was how did our strategic revision for mains course at R.C Reddy help you with, and specifically for mains?
For note making.
For note.
So whatever sirs used to teach and tell us and write it, I used to note down in a notebook. For each subject, I had a different notebook, and I used to take them out and put them in a. I had a folder for each subject. For history, I had for economy, for geography, for all the main subjects, and I used to put them in there. And the data I used to compile. I used to take, suppose if sir taught about gyre in North Atlantic Ocean, I used to take the paper and I used to put it in oceanography. So that all of the notes are compiled. You have to have all the information about a singular subtopic in a single place. Otherwise, you tend to forget that exists, and then that gets neglected.
And that could appear in the mains.
That could appear in the mains, and then you will remember, oh, I know about that sir taught, but I don't remember the topic, and then you will regret. So I think organizational work is very important in notes. You will find that your sources are very fat textbooks, and you can't memorize everything. You have to take the important points, write them as bullet points, because that is how you write in answer sheets too. As the sentences of bullet points. So you start the habit then and there in your note making to write the bullet points or paragraphs, and you take the important points, write them in a single notebook, and compile everything at a single place.
So how did you bring enrichment, or what aspects? How did the strategic revision for mains help you with those extra marks that you need? How did you, of course, the basic structure of organizing the notes with all the previous year questions that is segregated according to the syllabus of mains. We've already given it to the students. So you have structured your notes according to that. But for every year, there is the current affairs aspect. There is the substantiation aspect. Like R.C Reddy sir teaches about clarity, bringing in your answer. How substantiation and illustration, bringing in coherence is important. So how did you work on those extra marks? When
For me, because of the limited time factor, what I did was I presented my answers more in a visual format. I tried making diagrams, I tried making charts, flow charts, all sorts of things because I knew the answer, but I knew that I had to put it quickly. So I did many diagrams, I put many notes, I did lots of arrows to see this point is related to that point, and I did lots of underlinings. And I tried to utilize as much as few words as possible in portraying the answer I knew. Because the length of the answer rarely matters, I find that. You have to just show that you know what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
And also sometimes you have this aspect of bringing multidisciplinary facts to the answer sheet.
Yeah.
Suppose if they ask about climate, then you can bring facts about from science and technology into climate.
Yeah.
So those you can add as value additions to get a few extra marks, so that the examiner might know, this guy, he knows what he's talking about, and he's bringing other things as examples in his answer sheets. I think examples is also one more important thing. Like for every point, if you have a good example, then you will get that will be as a value addition. But do not do it as a compulsion. If you do not have a good example, do not write it. It will not be good on your answer.
Yeah. Basically, understanding the question, what is being asked, and clearly understanding the demand of the question. Sometimes mains has 2 to 3 questions in it. So understanding that there are 3 sections. So, and organizing your answer with the proper subheadings and side headings and using diagrams and all that you've used. Wherever substantiation is needed, using that. So, of course, you brought in a very important point about the multidisciplinary, like, the social, economic, or different aspects of, when a civil servant, you are called a generalist, not a specialist, right? So, a generalist should have the idea of not looking at things in a siloed manner, but having a very broad view about one aspect. Many students, you are that rare combination also, Ramakrishna, of having technology background and also love for art subjects that you have. History is your optional. Yes. So tell us about that. Why did you choose history as your optional, and how was?
Ever since I was in school, 6th, 7th standard, I've always been interested in the subject of history. Yes, I did well in maths and physics, sciences and technology, but history always had it gave me that storytelling spark, because history is the story of our past.
Yes.
I grew up, I also like reading novels. Yes. So I like stories. And history is just story of mankind. So that is where I connected with history. And I've always been very passionate about knowing what people used to do, how they used to live, what was their government like, how did their government treat them, what was the geographical factors which affected why they're living in that way, how their economy was affecting their livelihood. So that is the curiosity which I always had. So that is why I like history. And not only Indian history, I like world history. Any history, any country, I was always very interested. And I've read a lot of non-fiction books about the historical aspect of the world.
Yeah, I remember that part from your interview. We were preparing questions based on that too, and you had to give examples of those. So how was the optional preparation, and how was planning for that, and when did you finish your optional preparation before the 2023 prelims?
I started preparing concurrently now. When I started preparing for civil service journey, I knew that history would be my option, because I think in choosing your option, the one main thing is obviously the easiness of the paper, but also if you have an interest in it. The other thing is that already GS has history in it. So half the syllabus of options is GS. So then Kareem sir used to teach history here, and I contacted him, and he started preparing me for history optionals. He gave me a source of books, and he also used to teach that his notes. I still have those notes, and they're still very important for me. So that is where my history preparation comes from. Also, all the reference books, because optionals you have to do other sources too. Like You have to read all the reference books. Yeah, because you have to have in-depth knowledge.
Yes.
Because they can ask from anywhere.
True.
So I read all the reference books. I made notes, and I have like a thick notebook. I made for my option.
Yes.
The why history option was easy for me because of the interest.
Yes. True.
If I didn't have the passion for history, it would be a very difficult.
Difficult. Yes. True. So, what do you feel is the difference between preparing optionals notes? There's a difference between general studies is looking at how you are as a generalist, how you look at an issue in a multi-disciplinary way or a multifaceted way. So, how do you think answer writing for optionals is different from general studies?
In I think in optional, the why is important. Because in general studies, we just know what, when, where. See why, but not that in depth. In optionals, you go in depth. You know the why, the how, everything. All the analytical aspects. You are more intellectual there. It's almost as if you're writing your degree paper because you have to be intellectual. You have to completely know the subject and for that you need lots of reading and reading reference books, reading study materials, reading internet, sometimes finding PDFs on the dark corners of the internet from old books about European history. Sometimes even YouTube videos help me about watching about history about certain specific aspects. So I think you have to have you have to put in the effort of going into depth, not fearing about the amount of details which are there. Because at the end of the day, all of that will get compressed. Obviously, the knowledge is a lot, but you have to learn how to compile it properly.
So, Ramakrishna, how was I know that your parents also have stood by your side and they have helped you choose which institute to go to and also guided you and been there even through those failures. So, how was their reaction, your parents, grandparents, and I know your siblings? So, how was their reaction to
I
it?
think it was probably one of the best days of their life, and mine too. Because my mom told me that the results came.
Okay.
And she was like, go check. It is so quiet. I was checking. I searched my name and it was there. I was like, it's there. And my mom jumped at me. She hugged me. She called my dad and he came. I think both of them were in tears. And they hugged me and we just stood there, three of us, for a time later. And then we called both my sisters, my grandparents, and all of them were shouting in the phone. They were like, we are going to come to your house as soon as possible. And the same evening they came and all of them had a good celebration.
That's great. I was so happy when you called me, and we already knew that it was out, but I was very glad that it was the second attempt, losing by just a margin of 6 marks is not an easy thing, but making it to the reserve list now it gives you that extra strength to go forward. So
there's a confidence.
Yes, there's a confidence. Yeah. So definitely, I mean, I can imagine what it's been for your parents too, and when we were speaking during the interview time also, how your parents have stood by you during that time.
They
So
have always stood by my choices and they let me do anything which I was interested in. They never said, they never questioned me if this was correct. Are you sure? I was like, yeah,
Yes.
I'm very grateful. Yeah.
yes, I'm so happy because parents like that, it means a lot. There are students with great caliber, but they're so afraid of failure because they don't have that support back home sometimes. Though it is subtly there, subtly not there sometimes, but consistently believing in your child. I think it's very important. This exam, like R.C Reddy sir always says, it's 70% is the student's effort and 30% coaching, and of course, there's a bit of luck also this exam takes. So, it's very important to have that kind of supportive environment, and kudos to your parents. We thank them for all the support they gave you along with the institutes. How was your interview at the board? I know that it was a very short time you had like a quick crash course with multiple one-on-ones with
Yes.
R.C Reddy sir and me, and then you had 2 mock interviews or more than that. So how was uh, the day of the interview for you, and how did all this help in the
So my interview was in January in Delhi. It was very cold. So that was one thing in the back of my mind, that it was very cold because we have been brought up in Hyderabad and it never gets that cold there. So that was the one main thing. The other thing is, while going into the interview, I knew that I was well prepared. So I think that confidence helped me. Because if you go into the interview knowing that you're not well prepared, you're not going to pass. They will look at you and they will think, yeah, this guy, he's not confident. So you have to be confident, and thankfully I was. And the interview it was good. There were no side questions asked. Nobody tricked me or something because I kept my answers constant. Uh, the interviewees were also good and they respected me, which I found surprising. Yeah, and it was a good, normal, neutral interview.
That's great.
I didn't have any difficulties. If I didn't know the answer, I said I don't know. And it was also very quick because I was the first person to go to the board that day. And
Yeah, I
my-
remember speaking to you the day of the interview, and then you have to submit your
Yeah.
attendance thing
Yeah.
and all that, verification.
So I think my interview was around 30 to 35 minutes.
So that's a good time, and I'm glad, though you were kind of scared. How will I finish, ma'am? I still remember our conversations that we had, and how the one-on-one sessions were. I think all that, the background with which you have prepared, and the extracurricular activities that you have done at school level, and all that you've done at your college level, everything culminates into this. And its personality is not just a product of, the personality test is not just testing your knowledge, also testing if you can work well with others. So I'm glad you took all the advice and did well. So tell us, what would you suggest to those who are thinking about civil services as an option, to prepare for? What would be your advice to them?
My advice is you have to be determined. You have to be very determined in your choice that you are going to pursue to become a civil servant. Because it's a very long process. It is not one exam. It is 3 exams, and one of the exam has 9 papers. So it's a very long and drawn out process, and it tests you in every way possible: physical, mental, emotional, psychological. So you have to be determined. I don't think you have to be overly good at studies, overly good at anything. You have to be general, jack of all trades. That is a jack of all trades. And if you have a confidence in yourself, I think that is another important thing: determination, confidence. If you have that confidence in yourself that yes, I can do it, I think this is something for me. I think only then try to pursue it. And also try to find as many tools as possible. Get into institute, and I suggest, of course, my R.C Reddy Institute. Get into an institute, have mentors and guides. Look into previous patterns, question papers, previous people who have passed through this process. Look into their experiences.
So, what do you feel? How did R.C Reddy IAS Study Circle help you? If you would put it in. I know it's a long drawn process. We've been there right from the beginning to the end, and the journey still continues. We are still with you, but like we always say, once our student is always our student. Because this civil services is unlike any other exam. It takes a lot of uh, mental, physical, and emotional strain, and also you need the right guidance in the right time. So, what would you say? How did the institute help you?
An analogy I would like to tell is, when you're pouring some liquid in a bucket, it splashes everywhere. This institute was like a funnel which is directing my flow in a very concentrated manner, in a very determined state. So that is how it honed in my abilities and my skills, and it gave me lots of tools and tips. So that is how this institute.
Great. We're glad because that is R.C Reddy sir's vision too, because he always tells 70% is the student's effort. I've seen my father counsel many students who come down the line. He very clearly mentions that, 70% of the students' effort institute is here to, because it's a competitive exam. Every mark matters. So that is where our expertise is to help you understand where to channel your energies, how to utilize your knowledge in the right ways. And of course, there's a bit of luck in this exam, but and sir very clearly specifies about having a plan B, and he advises against not R.C. Reddy sir always advises against not having to just go without a plan B. He always wants his students to have a plan B because you're in the prime of your life. These years will not come back again. So it's very important that your confidence doesn't take a hit. So we're glad that all this worked together for you in a wonderful way. We wish you all the best and congratulate you and your family for all the hard work that you've put in, and we would love to see you as a foreign service officer, which is your dream, and we're here to support you through that journey as well. Foreign service or Indian administrative service.
I would like to give my thanks to you, ma'am, to R.C Reddy sir, to all the faculty from all the courses which I've taken in this institute. This institute has helped me a lot in getting to my goals. Thank you.
We're very glad.